Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims, to Season 6 of the Journeying with the Saints podcast. This is the introductory episode where I'm going to explain my saint choice for this year and how the season will work. So if you aren't aware, we are reading St. Augustine's Confessions. Now, how did I land on St. Augustine as my Season 6 saint, you might ask? Well, it is a very long story, but it's a good one. Right around the beginning of 2025, I began to notice that St. Joseph was popping up everywhere in my life. And if you follow me on social media, you will have read about all the ways. Basically, the story starts with my dad reminding me that I was born in a Catholic hospital, St. Joseph's. I'd known this, but for some reason, it triggered this intense interest in exploring the hospital where I was born in Wichita, Kansas. I was not born or raised Catholic. In my digging, I discovered a book written by a Mother Superior for the Order of St. Joseph, which is the order that founded the hospital in Wichita. So I ordered the book for like $4 off of eBay, and when I read it, I learned about the history of the hospital. Weird, I know. Not many people care about the origins of the hospital that they were born in. So in the summer of 2025, I went and visited the hospital in Wichita, and I've continued to have St. Joseph show up everywhere in my life. I did a consecration to St. Joseph. Our new priest on base is Father Joseph. There are just so many instances. And then this past spring, Pope Francis passed away and the church got her new pope, Pope Leo XIV. And Pope Leo is an Augustinian. And when I went to look up the order of Augustinians, I discovered that St. Joseph is their patron saint. So right then and there, I decided that I would read something by St. Augustine. I'm ready now. I've been Catholic for 16 years, and I feel ready to take on his writings. Had you suggested to me in my baby days right after conversion that I should read St. Augustine's works, I would have been wildly intimidated. I just wasn't ready for his level of intelligence, but I think I can dive in now. And so that's how I landed on him. But who is St. Augustine? Aurelius Augustine was born in Tagaste, Algeria in 354 AD. His dad was a non-believer and his mother is the famous St. Monica. Most of us know his story. Though his mother wanted him to practice the faith, he went the way of the world. And it seems that lust was the sin that he struggled with the most. He had a mistress for many, many years. He was very loyal to her, but obviously that wasn't good. And she had a son with Augustine out of wedlock. His son's name was Adeodatus. I think that's how you say it anyway. It seems Augustine, though a great sinner in many ways, was liked by most people. He had friends, he was smart, people enjoyed his company. And I think this is something that's important to remember, is that most sinners aren't wickedly bad all the way through. Now, there are some people that are that way, but most of us have our chief sins that we struggle with, but there are good parts about us too. So anyway, Augustine became a bit disenchanted with the secular world and went looking for something to follow, and he discovered the Manichees. Now, the core of the Manichaean belief was the eternal conflict between the forces of light and darkness, where the material world was seen as a product of the dark and therefore evil. If you want to read about how this affected Augustine, I would definitely encourage you to read the introduction to the book. It's actually quite interesting. Thankfully, though, Manichaeism wasn't able to hold his attention, and he came into contact with St. Ambrose, and that started him on his journey into full communion with the Catholic Church, where, as we all know, he eventually became a bishop and is a doctor of the Church. Augustine died on August 28th, 430, in Hippo. Initially, he was laid to rest in Hippo, but later his body was taken to Pavia, Italy, where he is buried at the Basilica of San Pietro. St. Augustine is the patron saint of brewers, theologians, and printers. So now let's talk about how this season will work. First, I would highly recommend printing off the reading list for this season. I'll link it in the show notes so that you can print it off if you want to. Now, this book is comprised of 13 books. Each book has a certain number of numbers, like mini chapters. For example, book 1 has 20 chapters, book 2 has 10. I will be grouping the books together, and one episode for each chapter will drop each day until that book is complete. So, for 20 straight days, we will get an episode from book 1. Then there will be a short break, and on the next Monday that comes, the next book will start. So I hope that makes sense. If you download the reading list, I think it will be more clear. Or if you just want to take a glance at it so you can see what I'm talking about, that will help too. As a side note, I will not be reading the introduction. I rarely do that, but I would highly encourage you to read through it on your own before we get started. So each episode, I will read the chapter and then I will give a very short reflection. My goal is to average about 10 minutes per chapter. So some chapters are very short and some are a bit longer, but that's the time frame that I want to stick to, at least on average. As with all my seasons, I think it's best to take things in bite-sized chunks so that we can read, reflect, and meditate on what we've read. Well, I think that covers everything. Chapter 1 of book 1 drops tomorrow, so we are just jumping right in. I'm very excited, and I look forward to learning from St. Augustine with you here in season 6. So, I'll see you back here tomorrow. And until then, Catholic pilgrims, live the faith boldly and travel well.